Start the recording. Okay. Okay, guys, are you able to see my screen, right?
Yes, Ashok.
Okay, just a minute. Just a minute. Okay, guys, let's watch today's session. Today's session is about AWS ECS. Before starting into the session, I want you to I'm going to explain. We'll just do a recap. Whatever we have done about the Docker orchestration, whatever we have done. What exactly is the container orchestration? What exactly is the container orchestration? Container orchestration is all about managing the life cycle of the containers, all about managing the life cycle of the container. What exactly managing life cycle means? From starting phase to the deletion phase, starting phase, the running phase, and the deletion phase. This is the life cycle of a container. Managing this life cycle of this container is called container orchestration. How exactly this content orchestration helps? It helps us to manage large and dynamic environments. What is the starting phase of Docker Swarm? What is the starting phase of the Docker Swarm? What was the starting phase? Which term was the starting phase of the Docker Swarm?
Service, Ashok. We need to service.
Are you sure, Ashant? What was the starting phase of the Docker Swarm? Task was the starting phase in the Docker orchestration in Docker Swarm. Task, task, task definition. What is actually task definition? Image, CPU, network, memory, logging, port, volume. These are the task definition. Task definition is the starting phase. What is the running phase of the Docker Swarm? What is the running phase? Now you can say the word which you said before.
Service, scalability.
Yes. Docker Swarm services. The running phase. How exactly means the managing the services, managing the running phase, managing the containers once it has been started. Docker services. How many types of services are there in Docker? How many types of services are there in Docker? Okay, let me go very detailed. Docker services are of two types. What are they? Services are of two types. Docker services are of two types. What are they? Have you guys heard the terms global replica?
Yes, Ashok.
Yes, Ashok. Replica and global. Global
Yes,
service.
these are all Docker services. What exactly the global is? One container for one machine, one container for one EC2 machine. What is about replica? What is about replica?
We're creating replicas in different containers, Ashok. Different machines.
Yeah, multiple containers in one single EC2 machine. Maybe how many n number of containers in a single EC2 machine, or maybe multiple EC2 machines. Replica. Okay. Now, what exactly? Now everything, and how many types of Docker orchestration? How many types of container orchestration tools are there? How many types of container orchestration tools were? Docker Swarm, AWS, Kubernetes. Now we have discussed about Docker Swarm. What exactly in the Docker Swarm was the issue? What exactly the Docker Swarm issue was? Means why exactly we are now going to AWS CCS? Because everything was perfectly fine for Docker Swarm, right? We were able to do the multi-node challenge. We were able to do the availability. We were able to do the scaling. We were able to do a deployment from the version V1 to V2. Everything we were able to do it in a Docker Swarm. Then why we are talking about AWS ECS today? What was the reason? And the Docker swarm mainly follows, means the Docker orchestration mainly follows master and worker architecture, right? Master
Yes,
and
yes.
slave architecture. Now, why we are talking about this AWS ECS? What was the reason? Did you guys remember? In Docker swarm, everything, everything, whatever we are doing, the manageability was the main issue. Manageability. What? Because everything is dependent on the master. If the master is not available, will the workers will able to work? If the master is not there, if the master has been spoiled or maybe deleted, will the tasks will be able to work out? No, right?
No, no.
The manageability issue. Why? Because who will be able to secure the high availability of the master? Who ensures the auto scaling of workers? Who ensures the security of clusters? Who ensures the monitoring and logging? Who ensures the deployment is going on perfectly? Who?
It's the manager.
We do it manually on everything, right? We
Yes, yes.
make the high availability, we make the scaling, we make the security porting, we make the monitoring and logging. Everything is on us. If we make a mistake, everything is doomed. The Docker swarm main problem was the manageability. Who has to manage? We have to manage everything. We have to see the availability of the master. We have to auto scale the workers. We have to see the security of the clusters, how exactly working. We have to see the monitoring and logging. Everything is on us. Everything. The Docker swarm main problem is everything on us. So that came the picture of AWS ECS. Why exactly this is more preferable than Docker Swarm, we will be discussing today, and how exactly we are going to work it out. Before that, I want you to answer these two questions.
What is the most cost-effective EC2 pricing option to use for a non-critical overnight workload? Reserved instance that can occur of dedicated instance of security.
First, answer the first question. Take a guess.
What is the most cost-effective EC2 pricing? Non-critical overnight workload. B, Ashok.
B. Okay. What about you, Puneet?
On demand, I guess, Ashok.
Okay. Do you know the EC2 pricing model? Do you have any idea on it? Do you guys know EC2 pricing option? Okay, let me.
No, Ashok.
EC2 pricing option is of three types: on demand, reserved, spot. So there we see on demand, reserved, spot. So the option dedicated instances is not the correct answer. So C is automatically gone. So now the three cases are there: on demand, reserved, spot. So I will explain what exactly this on demand, reserved, spot, then answer your question. On demand, what exactly this on demand is that right now you are handling your application. Now AWS is giving an EC2 machine 10 rupees per 10 hour. This is the main pay as you use, pay as you go. Means whatever you're using, pay for that hour. Means if you are using an EC2 machine, if you are using an EC2 machine on demand, means it is 10 rupees per hour and you need it only for 5 hours. So you will be using for 5 hours. Will be 50 rupees. Means on demand, you just needed that machine for only for that specific time period, for that for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, 1 day, and for that it will be only for that time period. Means it will be charging only per hourly basis. On that hour you are using it for only hours. On demand, I just need it for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and this will be the charge. I just needed that machine to complete my task, or maybe, like as I said, in big billion days on the great Indian festivals, you needed instances because your traffic flow was 1x, now it has been 10x. You needed 10 machines very fastly. For just to complete that day, you will be taking on demand instances. You will be just taking AWS, just give me more in the EC2 instances. You can charge for 10 rupees per hour. Okay, that's fine. I just need it for 10 hours. Okay, you will be using that instances. That is called pay as you use, on demand. And reserved. Now you have a production service. Now you know that if you are using a production application and your application will be able to run a long hold, means it may be running more than 3 years. You will be thinking that, okay, the application is going to run more than 3 years, 5 years, 1 year, more than 1 year, minimum 1 year, and maximum it is going to run 10, 3, 4, 5, up to new. At that time, you preferred, you go to AWS and say, okay, now I'm going to use the application on your servers, on your EC2 machines for 3 years. Now give me a discount. So they reserve that in EC2 machine for your application for the next 3 years. So they will give a discount of 70% off. Means the 10 rupees now came to 3 rupees for the EC2 machine, for 3 rupees. But the thing is here is that you have to pay for the 3 years, whether you are using the machine or not. It doesn't care about AWS. I have been reserving an EC2 machine for you for the next 3 years. So you have to pay me for the next 3 years with a discount of 70%. So here I am giving you a EC2 machine for the next 3 years, minimum 1 year, and maximum it's up to you. And for that charge, I am giving you 70% off. You have to pay me for the next. If you are using the machine or not, it's up to you. But you need to be paying the whole amount. These are reserved instances. Reserved. Now on spot. What exactly the on spot? See, now AWS have very big data centers. They have Mumbai, North Virginia. Now it's going to start in Hyderabad. Very big data centers. So in a big data center, AWS has thousands of EC2 machines. They have a big hardware rack and everything. They have multiple machines. So now let's take an example. They have 1,000 EC2 machines. 150 EC2 machines are being used by other applications, mean by other users. 150 EC2 machines are reserved or on demand. It has been gone. Now they have 850 machines, which are just available. They are nothing. They are not being used at all. So 850 machines are there. Now what AWS do is that they will bid. They will ask you, see, now I have 850 machines. Now I will giving you the machine for 2 rupees per hour, or maybe 3 rupees per hour, maybe 1 rupee per hour. You can use it. You can bid. Suppose you and other user are there. Now you need the machine. And you see that the spot instances are there. The spot instances where you will be just bidding it for 2 rupees per hour, and the other guy is bidding 3 rupees per hour. The AWS will automatically give him that on 3 rupees per hour, because the machine is coming very less cost. The only disadvantage in the spot is that if suppose you have taken for 2 rupees per hour, some other guy bids for 2.5 rupees per hour, the AWS, without informing you, will give that instance to that other person. The only disadvantage in spot. Because the spot instances are very cheap to use, but they don't have, means if you are using for any single task and you just don't want to spend more money, like 10 rupees on demand also, but you just want it for 1 or 2 hours, and you think the on spot instances are there, you will bid for 2 rupees per hour. And if you got it, you will be continuing the working, and other one bids for 2.5 or 3 rupees per hour, then the EC2, the AWS will give to the other person without informing you. Now, read the question. Now understand what exactly will be the answer.
Non-critical means it is not on demand, right, Ashok?
Now you have to tell me, because see
The
the
answer
Ashok.
is spot, Ashok.
Okay, what about you, Ashwant?
B, Ashok. It's
B.
not.
See, Puneet is right. Spot. Why? See, they need most cost-effective pricing option to use for a non-critical overnight workload. Means non-critical means suppose someone takes my EC2 machine also, I don't care, because I just need to check something. I just need to see non-critical. Non-critical means I just need to check it out. If someone means if I've bid it for something and someone takes the EC2 instance also, I don't care because it is just non-critical overnight workload. The spot will be the one because you have to go for the most cost effective. If you go on demand, it will be 10 rupees. Reserved is why we use reserved for a long-term basis. Reserved is always used for long-term basis. Spot is the only one where you will be bidding it and you will be taking it and will be using. And your work is also done, you can stop it. In the meanwhile, if your work is not also done, it doesn't matter because it's a non-critical task.
Ashok, suppose if the question here was critical overnight workload, it would have been on demand, right, Ashok?
Yes, yes, obviously on demand. Now you guys are able to understand on-demand, reserved, spot, right? These are the three EC2 pricing options available in AWS. Now, answer the second question. For which of these services does Amazon not charge customers?
I think A and D, Ashok. EC2 and S3.
Yashwant, just now I explained about the on-pricing concept, right? Where they are charging
yes.
it. What they
Okay.
are charging it.
Yes. EC2 is charging, Ashok. Then S3, Ashok.
S3 is chargeable. Why? Why it is not chargeable? S3 is chargeable. It's a bucket storage, right? Bucket storage concept. We actually keep a simple storage service. We actually store that because S3 is chargeable.
But up to 5 GB, they give it for free. Is it not, Ashok?
But after that, you will not be able to see if you are saving a production data, production dump, or maybe a lost type of files, which is more than 100 GB. So see, we are in a theoretical knowledge. We have not worked in the project experience, but in the project, when you starting the data, when you start storing the data, it will be in terabytes, not in GBs. It will be in terabytes, maybe 100 GB, 200 GB, 300 GB. Like this way it goes on. So for first 5 GB, they are giving free. And for here also, the EC2 machine, we are getting for the first 700 hours, it is free for us. But after there will be charge. The only thing which is not chargeable from AWS is VPC. ECS is also chargeable. ECS is also chargeable. Okay, guys, this is all about the recap of the container orchestration. Now let's go to AWS ECS. Believe me, guys, this is one of the best concept in AWS ECS, and this is a very good topic. If you want to learn AWS, if you want to learn only AWS, means the AWS, how exactly it works out. If you know ECS perfectly, that's well enough. That's well most enough. Now, why AWS ECS? What exactly this is? AWS ECS. ECS is Elastic Container Service. It is also same orchestration tool. It is also a container management service that can quickly launch. What exactly launch? The starting phase, manage the running phase, and exit the deletion phase. The same as container orchestration, it is also use the same mechanism, the container management service. Launch. What exactly? The task definition. What is the task definition? Image, CPU, network, memory, logging, port, volume. Manage. What exactly the manage is? The running ECS service, the manage, the running phase. How exactly works out ECS service? Exit, the deletion of the cluster, or maybe the container is called deletion. Now see the architecture. See the task definition, container, volume, network. This is about AWS ECS task definition, the starting phase, the running phase, the ECS service will make sure that your cluster, all the tasks in it are running perfectly. The deletion will come after that. Means if you don't want to use this service, if you don't want to use, delete the cluster, delete the tasks, deletion phase. Why exactly? What are exactly features of AWS? This has been provided by AWS ECS, and it's a most highly reliable service, highly scalable and available, optimized for cost, serverless offers and everything. I will just go on, and it integrates with third-party tools, CI/CD, Jenkins, Git, everything. Now, believe me, guys, 70% startups, 70% of the startups, which actually are very good startups, they use AWS ECS. They use AWS ECS. Why they use AWS ECS? In AWS ECS, the master will handled by AWS. The master will handled by AWS. I'm repeating again. In ECS, the master will be handled by AWS. We don't have any control on the master. We don't have any control on the master. We don't have any control. The AWS will be maintaining the master. They will be looking after the master. So if they are using the master, why are they? And they are doing it for free. They do it for free. If you use ECS, they give the master, they will maintain the master for free. Now you will be thinking why they are doing it for free. Are they mad? पागल है क्या? मतलब why they want to use it in master? Why they want to do it free? Why they are giving a free service in ECS? Why they are giving the master? Why they are doing it free? That's AWS market strategy. AWS, if you are doing it master, they are not charging anything on your master. They will be charging on the worker. They are charging you on the worker nodes, where if you are having 10, 100 of worker nodes, they will be charging on that. They will be charging on that. And believe me, 70% of the startups use AWS ECS because they just want to go into the application, they just want to go into the market, and they don't care who is actually handling, how exactly their EC2 instances are there, how exactly their services are running. They don't care. They just want to go into the market. And they have to prove their product. 70%, the good startups use AWS ECS. It is a very most reliable service given by AWS. Now, what we have been using in Docker Swarm and Docker Compose, the master, what exactly we were doing in master, we used to launch the EC2 instance, install the Docker, and in all the machines, even in the master and the workers, we have to install the machine Docker, and then we used to run the Docker container. Here, the master is already provided. The master is already with AWS. They will be taking it. They will be maintaining it. In the worker nodes, you just have to install the ECS agent and Docker. If you don't want to do that, you have ECS optimized AMI. Which has this ECS agent and Docker in it, which has this ECS agent and Docker in it. Automatically, directly, you can use this optimized AMI, and it will be taking care of the worker nodes also. The ECS agent is nothing. It actually makes the connection between the master and the worker nodes. The ECS agent is nothing but makes the connection between the master and the worker nodes. This is the architecture of AWS ECS. There is another one called ECR, Elastic Container Registry. What exactly this Elastic Container Registry? This is same as Docker Hub. What do you mean by Docker Hub? Where you store the images, and everything. Here, the ECS, that AWS gives you Elastic Container Registry on itself, on your console itself, where you can store your images, you can keep your images. Now let me explain you through the UI. See guys, now you have public registry, the repositories, the repos where we used to do it, on the Docker Hub. Like the same way you have private and public repositories where you want to save it. Now, if you want, create a repository, whether you want to be private or maybe the public, it's up to you. And this is the name of the repository. This is the name of the repository. ECR, this is the name of the repository. It will be demo NDR. Now, I will not just going to keep private, and I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to create a repository. See guys, now the repo has been created. The repo has been created. The repository has been created. Now, how to push a Docker image, For that, you need to have in Docker Hub, what exactly we used to do? We used to do Docker login. For here, let me go through. We used to have Docker Hub here. Just take this push commands. Just let me create a instance. ECS optimized AMI, like this we have Ubuntu optimized AMI. This is the same way we have ECS optimized AMI, where we will be having Docker agent and ECS agent. We don't have Docker images, right? Let me do one thing. you guys have any doubts, you can ask me.
Ashok, as you mentioned, Docker, ECS, and
Kubernetes.
Kubernetes.
Yes, tell me.
Like we have three options in the market. Like which one would be like cost effective and best one, Ashok, in these
See,
three?
if you are a DevOps engineer, means if you are a startup, the startup will always go for AWS ECS. The Kubernetes is more advanced, and it's more preferable right now in the market. Right now, they are preferring to go for Kubernetes because it is easy to handle the pods and everything. And if you don't want to have, see, the startups will don't want to have a big DevOps team. They don't want to have any DevOps team. These guys will go for AWS ECS because as you see, because the Docker Swarm, the manageability and everything has to be on you. If you don't have any DevOps engineer, with you, if you don't have any DevOps engineer, they will all obviously go the one which obviously they just want to have their application in the market. So they will always prefer to have this kind of means this kind of service where they don't want to have any headache. They don't want to have any headache. So at that time they will be taking care, they will be considering AWS ECS. And if you are having a very good DevOps team and you are more advanced, you people will be using Kubernetes. So it depends on the market use and your project needs and your organization needs. But as I mentioned, 70%, because they don't want to pay to the DevOps engineers, they don't want to have any DevOps team, they just have developers. And obviously, the AWS will be taking care of everything. In AWS also, you have two modes. One is serverless, means one is EC2 and a Fargate mode. The Fargate mode, you don't have to do anything. The master and worker will be handled by AWS itself. In EC2, master will be handled by AWS, but the worker will be handled by you. If you don't want that also, AWS Fargate mode, where the master and worker both are handled by AWS. You just have to go to the server, install your application. That's it. You don't have to do anything. They will be taking care, they will be working on it, they will be making the infrastructure, they will be maintaining the software. Everything will be done by you. Just have to install your application on the server. That's it. They will be taking it. 70% of the startups are using this AWS Fargate mode. 70%. So it depends on the project. The startups mainly go for AWS because they it's a cost optimized for them. Because paying it to a DevOps engineer along with it, they want to use the AWS services, it will be a little costly, and they don't have any DevOps team. The 2 years guy, 3 years guy will not be able to do this. They need more than 6, 7 years, and 7 years guy to handle that will be a lot of cost for them. They have to pay more, so they will always go which is a cost optimized for them. Understood?
Yes, Ashok. Ashok, I saw one more service in Amazon, Ashok, Amazon EKS.
That is Elastic Kubernetes Service. Same thing.
Same, okay. Okay, directly they have implemented Kubernetes in Amazon, Ashok.
No, Kubernetes is of Google's. It is Google's. They have Amazon also have same EKS. We will discussing it further, not right now. It's just go complete this ECS. After that, we will go to the EKS and everything. It is same thing of EKS. It's the same Elastic Kubernetes service which has been Google has been giving. They have been launched in AWS also. They have their own one. You can integrate with the Google Kubernetes also. It's up to you. Let me see whether this is there or not. We do this one also. Okay, that's fine. Now we have two Docker images. Now I want to push to the Amazon ECR. I want to push to the Amazon ECR. What is the command? You just have to take this. I think AWS is there, right? Oh, come on. Just a minute, guys. I should have done it long back. Where is? The login is succeeded. Now, just you have to bust. Okay. I just have to tag this one. I will tag. This image ID. Oh, with this one. Oh, I'm tagging this image. Now, if you see Docker images, the latest is there. Now I just have to push this command. That's it. Now the worker has been pushed. Now if you go here, see, I have the image in AWS ECR. Now if you want to do another one, Docker tag, what is the image ID? Vote, and you want to keep it as version v1. I will be keeping as version v1. Enter tag. Now if you see Docker images, now the v1 is there. The only command will be docker push This the tag ID, the repository, capital V1. Not done. It's been also pushed. Amazon AWS ECR, Elastic Container Registry. You can ask me, we have Docker, why we want to use ECR? Why you want to use ECR? Why you want to use ECR? Why we want to use ECR? What's the point of using the ECR? Now, let me go to the repositories. Take it here, actions. In the edit, I just wanna do something. Enabled. Okay, now I'm saving it. Go inside, delete this one. If you see when you have pushed the image, at that time it was nothing. Now if you pushed after doing scan status, what exactly I have done? I have enabled the scanning. What exactly I have enabled? I have enabled the scan status. See the scan status. See, you can see once you have pushed the image, what are exactly the vulnerabilities are there? What are the vulnerabilities are there on this image? What are all the issues? What are the issues you can face? You have to check it out with your security team, SecOps security team, where they will be able to analyze what will be the issues going in future with this particular image. What will be the vulnerabilities? What are the vulnerabilities? You can see there are 5 critical vulnerabilities, 19 high. You can be able to discuss, you can be able to check with your security team that I have pushed this image. Now I am seeing these are all this kind of issues are there. So what needs to be done? This is the option you get in ECR, in AWS ECR, where you will be able to check out, you will be able to see how exactly you can work it out, how exactly you can work it out. And there is a chance in Docker Hub, once you have pushed, you can keep it as time as you want. But suppose you have an application and you are using 5 EC2 machines, and in every EC2 machines means, sorry, you have a 50 EC2 machines. First consider one EC2 machine, and every day you are generating 5 Docker images, and going, and after that 5 Docker images, and going further, you increase the application to 50 EC2 machines. Now you have 50 into 5. How many? 250 Docker images per day. Per day you are storing 250 Docker images, 250 Docker images. But for 1 month, how many it will be? 250 per month, 250 into 30, it will be 75,000. It will be 7,500, sorry, 7,500 images. And but for a year, for a year, how many it will be? It goes to lakhs. That many Docker images, what will you do? You will be using this much space, you will be wasting it. For that, you have an option. You have an option. When you are uploading the image, there is a life cycle policy. What is the policy? See the rule. Here, rule priority 1, what should be? Delete the image. Any, whether it is tagged or untagged, any, you can take it out. And since image pushed means at what time the image has been pushed on, from that day, I just want to keep it for not more than 7 days, or maybe a month, or maybe 365 days. It's up to you. The life cycle policy will be given to you, whether you want to keep these images, because you are updating your application, there is no point of keeping the old Docker images. For the first day, if you have been a year, for the January 1st image is not been usable for the December 31st image, because there will be a lot of changes. What will be you will be using for the January 1st image? Obviously, that's a wastage of your space. So you will be creating your policy, a life cycle policy. Once the Dogger image has been pushed, when it has been pushed, I don't want to keep it more than 7 days, 10 days. It's up to you. Based on that rule, the image will be deleted. Based on that rule, the image will be deleted. This is option which has been in AWS ECR. Elastic Container Registry. We will not get in Docker Hub. This is about ECR. Any questions you have?
In Docker Hub, when it is public, we can store for the permanent, right, Ashok?
Yeah, you can show it permanent and anyone can be able to look into it. And in Docker Hub, the thing is that you will be having to, if you want to use private repository, you have to pay the cost effective Docker more than Docker Hub. ECR is most cost effective. Go to the top ECR. I will explain the differences. You just go through it. If you want, someone can read it.
Yeah, sure. A fully managed container registry by AWS makes it easy to manage, store, deploy, and share container images. And it is highly secure and available. Eases the deployment workflow for pushing and pulling the images. Enables you to put lifecycle policy on the images. Here are some examples. Delete Docker images older than 365. Delete Docker images if the count is more than n number, says 25. Yes,
The
Ashok.
lifecycle policy just we discussed whether you want to delete it after the day you have been pushed, or if the image count is more than these days, delete it. This is the second one. Here, the same one. We want if the image count is more than if the image count is more than the date, means more than this many images, delete it. This is the image count. Now, why exactly ECR is most cost-effective in Docker? What exactly the features we have? See, both have public and private repositories. That's fine. Authentication. Now, see, when I'm trying to log in, when I'm trying to push the image, I needed AWS IAM, AWS IAM access, AWS IAM access. With this AWS IAM access, the multi-factor authentication means here in Docker Hub, how you are able to log in. You are using your password or maybe a token if you are connected it to it. But you are in authentication. AWS IAM will be the most authenticated method because you will not be having credentials to everyone. Multi-factor authentication, where you will be having, if you want to have multi-factor authentication, ECR gives you the opportunity. Docker Hub doesn't have it. SLA means the availability of the machines 100%, 99.9%. We don't know about Docker Hub. Regions. See here, if you want to store your image in North Virginia, you can store it in North Virginia itself. The images will not be shown to, if you change your to Northwest, if you change to any other region, the images will not be shown to that region. Here it will be shown, here it will be having on the regional basis. Here we don't know where our Docker Hub images, where the Docker Hub servers are present. We don't know anything. Pricing on the storage basis, how exactly you are storing it. And here on the basis of number of users and repositories. Compared to Docker Hub, ECR is most cost effective. you. Any questions, guys? Any questions?
No, sure. No.
This is the way how you are going to create a repository. Now I want you to create and do the imaging. And once you are done, delete it because this is chargeable. Chargeable. So once you are done, create a public or private repository. Push the images. Push the images to the Docker, to the AWS ECR. One with the scan, one other one without scan. Do it. It's a homework for you. Now ECR is done. Now we will be talking about the ECS. What exactly this ECS is, what exactly this ECS we are talking it about, what exactly this ECS is. Now, what exactly the life cycle we have been discussing? What exactly we have been discussing about the life cycle? What exactly the life cycle we have been discussing? We have been told the container orchestration. The container orchestration is mainly about starting phase, running phase, and deletion phase. Here the starting phase is the task definition. The running phase is ECS service. Now, as I mentioned, there are two types of cluster launch. Two types of cluster launch. A cluster is nothing but groups of your task, means all the tasks and services or the EC2 instances. ECS cluster means whatever you are having, the service, task, everything, task and service, everything, whatever you have been provided, it is called ECS cluster. And what are the types of ECS cluster? There are two types. One is EC2 launch type. EC2 launch type, where the master is handled by AWS, you will be handling the worker nodes. Here, I am repeating again, EC2 launch type, where the master node will be handled by AWS, you will be handling the worker nodes. And the other one, forget, where everything will be handled by the AWS, the master and worker, everything will be handled by the AWS. We will be doing just into the AWS, we will be assessing the machine, and we will be just installing whatever we need. We just mention the code to the AWS, they will be taking care of it. We will just do it as such. Which one is more preferred? As I mentioned, if you are a startup and you want your application to be into the market as soon as possible, and you don't have budget to have a DevOps engineer, DevOps team, they can go for AWS Fargate. And you want to have a use case where you are want to have your own software, want to have your own software, own antivirus in your EC2 machines, then we will go for AWS EC2 launch type. What exactly these serverless offerings? As I mentioned, AWS Fargate, this gives serverless offerings. What exactly serverless means? We will not be able to see the EC2 machines at all. In AWS Fargate, we will not be able to see the EC2 machines at all. We will be not seeing the EC2 machines at all. You mean that the EC2 machines are not there? Means directly the containers are directly presented? No, we will not be able to see that. But the EC2 machines are there. How they are handling, how they are exactly working out, it will be a AWS headache. We will be just directly using the container. We will be using directly the container. How exactly it works out? Why this serverless? What are the serverless tasks? See, as I mentioned, AWS Fargate comes under serverless because everything will be handled by AWS. We will just be launching our containers. That's it. And we will be doing it through the AWS console. We will be doing it through the AWS console. With AWS console, we will not be having, we will be just defining the tasks. We'll be defining the tasks and they will be taking care of it. And here it is has been completely managed by AWS. We don't have to worry about the infrastructure. They will be working on it. They will be taking care of it. Examples of serverless, as I mentioned, AWS Fargate, S3. As you know, S3, we just provide, you just don't know, right? In S3, we just upload the images. We don't know how exactly they have been taking care, how exactly they are working out. We don't have any idea what exactly the backend process is. We are just pulling the images and we are just pushing the images in the S3, but we don't have any idea. The Lambda also comes into the picture of serverless offerings. Any questions you have, guys, let me know. There are two types of launch types in ECS. One is EC2 launch type. The other one is Fargate launch type. This will be the cluster active provisioning. You will be able to see once we are creating. You will be able to understand when we are creating the cluster. In that, when we are seeing the tasks and everything. Any questions, guys?
No, sure.
So in the pricing option, when it comes, as I mentioned, in the Fargate mode, as I mentioned, we are not able to see the servers. Now, how the money will be calculated? When you create the Fargate type, it will be taken on your CPU usage. Let me go to the ECS. What I'm saying is, you will be able to understand here. See, if you see here, AWS Fargate automatically it is taking serverless. If you don't want, you can go to Amazon EC2, where you will be creating the auto scaling group and everything. We will discussing this tomorrow. I will just be mainly on the AWS Fargate mode today. So let me create a cluster. NDR demo. You will be having your own network VPC and subnet definition, default namespace, and that's it. Monitoring optional, tags optional. Just create. What exactly I'm talking here is keep the task. We will be working on it. We will be defining. I will explain this one. We don't have money out. See, the cluster has been created. Now, if you go to the task, see, if you click on the launch type, see, you are getting Fargate and EC2. If you click on Fargate, you will be charged. You will be charged based on the where is the CPU, man? Okay, they haven't taken default. We don't have the option. Actually, when you select on the task, right? Here, if we are having options, how many clusters we want to, means how many tasks we want to create, we will be providing the CPU. We will be providing having the CPU value, where how much CPU we can use, how much CPU we can use, how much CPU we want to use. That many we will be deciding. Means they will be charging. They will be charging as in the PPT, they will be charging on your CPU, means one core CPU, how much RAM you are going to use, two core CPU, how much RAM you are going to use. Based on that CPU and memory usage, you will be paying the amount to the AWS. This is the main reason where AWS forget launch step, because as we mentioned, the AWS is a serverless. Fargate is a serverless, where we will not be seeing the servers, but it is a serverless. So we will be knowing what exactly server there means. We don't know what are the configurations they are using in the backend. It may be T2 micro, T3 large, M2 large, anything, T2 medium, everything we don't know. But how exactly they are going to charge, we based on our CPU, means if you are selecting CPU value 1 CPU and 2 GB, so based on that they will be charging 2 CPU and you will be using 8 GB. So based on that they will be charging you the money. What are the use cases the Fargate mode is using? See, you have multiple machines and you want to run cron job once an hour. You just want to run the workloads. You don't have anything I have to run on the machines. You just have to run a daily task just once an hour about a cron job. Then you will be just going to the Fargate launch type model, where you will be charging just for your work is just to run the cron jobs. Other than that, the application, everything is handled by AWS. You just have to go through just to run the task just once an hour. We will be going for the Fargate. And as I mentioned, you have a very tiny application. You have a very tiny application, and you don't want to use more of CPU. You can go the lowest CPU range they will be giving is 0.25. It starts with 0.25 CPU. So if you want, your application is a very tiny application, there are not many users, it's a very tiny application, then you want to pay for only very less money. Then for that usage, because the CPU usage will be really less, so for that you will be going to the Fargate mode, 0.25 CPU, 0.25 CPU. And you want to run small containers, means very small containers, which doesn't have, as I mentioned, only 0.25 CPU. For that, we will be using Fargate mode, where we will be using EC2 launch type, where we will be using the launch type, where you want to store and run your application, where you want to store and run your application. Here you, based on your workload, means how much workload, how much you are not able to understand, how much your container needs, how much your container needs, how much your container will be able to take on the EC2 machine, how much container you're not aware of, how much the container will be taking the memory usage and the CPU usage. At that time we will go to the EC2 launch type, and you need what exactly is going on. You need, means suppose your security teams mentions that in every worker machine I need this antivirus software to be present. I don't want any other things. I want to install other software in my worker nodes, because you want to have your control or your infrastructure. Master will never be, we will not be having the control. But on the worker nodes, whatever we have been having, whatever we are using, should be have our control, our software, our security system. Then we will be going to the EC2 launch type model. We will be going to the EC2 launch type model. This is the pricing option, guys. This is the pricing option of exactly it works out, and the use cases, how which one will be used at which time. Any questions you have?
No, Ashok.
Now answer the two questions, then we will go to the ECS cluster and we will be discussing about the Fargate today.
Okay. I would not prefer to use AWS managed infrastructure.
AWS ECR, Ashok.
What about you, Punit?
ECS EC2 mode, Ashok.
Understand the question, guys. Understand the question. They don't want to pay. They don't want to pay underlying unused capacity. If you take EC2 mode, you are taking on the worker. Worker means all the server machines. You are on a node. Worker node means a single EC2 machine will be with you. In Fargate mode, you will be paying on the CPU usage, on your CPU usage. So if you are taking only 0.25 CPU, you will be paying for only 0.25 CPU. If you are taking 0.5 CPU, you will be paying for only 0.5. But in EC2 mode, you will be paying whether you are not using the CPU or not. You will be paying for the total EC2 machine. What they want, what the question was exactly.
Unused
He wants
capacity.
to pay only for the application which he will consume, not for the other underlying. Because if he is taking EC2 mode, in EC2 mode they have given 4 CPU, and he needed only one. He's using only one CPU. The other 3 CPU is a waste of time for him. There is no point of taking it. But in Fargate mode, he will be able to understand he needs only one CPU. So he will be selecting only one CPU. So that way it works out. So the answer would be
See.
AWS ECS Fargate mode. Only. AWS Lambda and ECS EC2 mode come under AWS serverless offerings.
Serverless.
What are all the
No.
serverless offerings we had?
Uh,
AWS Lambda and ECS EC2 mode. ECS EC2 mode come under AWS serverless offerings. Whether ECS EC2 mode come under AWS serverless
No,
offering.
Ashok. No,
no,
no.
no, no. False.
Yes, that's right. Now, guys, as I mentioned, ECS. As I mentioned, ECS. Here, this is a cluster. This is a cluster where the group of services or tasks will be having, and we will be running it. What exactly? How exactly the ECS services run? First, we will be creating a cluster. Now that cluster has been created. This is the cluster. The cluster is there. Now, if you see, we don't have any task. We don't have any task. The task definition, the starting phase of the container, we need to have image, CPU, monitoring, logging, port, volume, network. Before this, I need to mention something. Okay, do you remember what are the networks we will be using? What were the networks we were using before in AWS, in Docker container, in Docker and everywhere? What are the networks we were having?
Bridge, host, and null.
Host. None.
Now, here, okay, just want to have a diagram so that it's easy for me to understand. What was the problem in Bridge? What was the problem in Bridge?
It had
Bridge,
default.
it was mapping through the EC2. It was going through the EC2, and from the EC2, it is going to the container. By means, when the bridge is using, it was going through the first with the container from the EC2, and from there it is going to the container. Means it is having a between a overlay, because there is a overlay effect. Here it was having latency issues because it goes through the EC2, and in the host, what was the thing? It is mapped. The Docker container port is directly mapped to the EC2 port map. Means this is directly using the EC2 port. This is directly using the EC2 port. Now, the none is where it doesn't have anything in incoming and outgoing with the internet at all. None. Now, we are having been, suppose if you are working it out, suppose we are working it on bridge. Host, bridge has latency issues. Network means host, we are mapping the container. If it's a single container, we are mapping that port. Means what are the port we want? If you're having two containers, we will be handling only one container port on one port 80. We will not be able to do multiple. So what was the issue? For that reason, AWS came with its own network, that is AWS VPC. That is AWS VPC. What exactly this AWS VPC is? What exactly this AWS VPC is? Here they will be handling your EC2 machine, and the container automatically connected, because in AWS VPC, what exactly that this gives, here in Fargate mode, we don't have servers, right? This is serverless. In Fargate mode, there is no servers at all. We is a serverless. Now you will be directly hitting the container. You will be directly hitting the container. This is a container. The container which you are launching, you are directly hitting the container. How exactly? Let me show you. We have created a cluster. Now run a new task. Launch type would be Fargate. Data version listed task. To launch task group. Here I have to create this task definition. This used to come before. Now task definition. We will be handling our OAuth application, on this. Okay, we'll be using our OAuth application on this. Name OAuth. Let me do it. Repository URL. So I will be just the container directly. We are directly making the container details from directly here. So let me take the registry here. We will be using, see, this is a separate port mapping they are having, OAuth ATCP. Next. We'll be going for that one. Now see, here is the task size. Sorry, here is the task size. See, 0.5 CPU, 0.25 CPU, 1 CPU. This will be the container. The container will be of 1 CPU and 8 GB. This is the one we are talking about, the task size. On this amount, we will be paying the money. Task role. If you want to have any IAM role, you can create it. It's up to you. Keep all the things like that only. This is a CloudWatch where you will be logging and everything. Just keeps like that only. Just don't do anything. Next. Where is the network part? Contains node options. Okay, let me create it. Now, if you go to the clusters and you go to the clusters, every time they are just actually changing. This UI has not been in the last year. They totally modified it. Not last year, just 3 months back. So directly run new task, launch type, target, platform version latest. You want to have that family, so just you will take the vote, revision 1, desired task, you just wanted only one. And here the networking part, you can give your VPC, you can choose your subnet, it's up to you. You just want to launch it on US East 1A. So that will be the one. If you want to create an existing security group, you can do it, or maybe you can create your own security group. It's up to you. An existing security group only. Public IP turned on. Okay. Now you just keep everything like that only. Here the task role, the execution role, everything. Create. See, this is the state provisioning. This was the status which we are talking, active, running. This will be the provisioning. Means that task here, if you go to the task, where is it? Provisioning. Once it has been provisioned, it goes to the active state. We'll see. See, now it's running. It's active. It is active. Now, if you go inside, if you come down, see, you are having your own public IP. The container is having its own public IP. If you copy paste and if you hit this URL, see what will be the one you will be seeing. Come on. Just a minute, guys. I think in the security group something is missed. We will be able to see what exactly in the logs. Using worker sync. Okay, Where is the security group? I think I have missed the security group. I should have kept it just on it. Maybe the default one doesn't have 8080 network interface. See, the cats and dogs. Now, have you seen? I have any? Do you have any EC2 machine? No. I do have any EC2 machine? No. I have directly the public IP address. I have directly the public IP address of that container. This is a beauty of AWS Fargate mode. You don't have a server, but you're directly hitting the public IP. You're directly hitting the public IP. With this public IP, you are able to do the machine. You are able to handle the machine directly. You are able to load the container with the container IP, directly the container IP, public IP. Any questions, guys? Anything you have?
Just like with the container, we can hit that port, Ashok.
Yes, this is the container IP. This is the container IP. This is the containers IP. We don't have any server, right? In
Yes.
Fargate is totally serverless. If you see, you will see anything I have been just directly container. If you see, this is a container name. This is a container ID. These are all container details. See, container name, container ID. This is the container. In the container, I am directly going. I am directly taking the container IP, and I'm hitting it. It's working it. The container IP. If I am voting whether it will work or not. Why it is not working? Because we don't have Redis. We don't have Redis. We don't have Redis. We don't have Redis. If you go to NDR and if you go to the services, if you create a service here, if you create a service, let me create a service. As I mentioned, if this task, the service type, the services, ECS services, what exactly global or replica, and the Fargate mode is always in replica. The forget mode is always in replica. Why? Why? Why, guys? Any idea why?
Because of its serverless nature.
Okay, that's right. That's one point is right. Guys, if you have only one service, because you don't have server, right? You don't have any server at all. You don't have server at all. So obviously, why? Because what is the global phenomena? What is the global type? What is the global service? One EC2 container, one EC2 container for one EC2 machine. That was
At
the
least
one, right? One task for one EC2 machine. We don't have EC2 machines at all. We don't have EC2 machines at all. So how will it be considered that this EC2, how will it be considered the container to be on the EC2 machine if you don't have any containers at all? So obviously it goes to replica. The forget mode always will have replica. If you create, means if your launch type is a total different one, if your launch type is EC2, if your launch type is EC2, then you have the option of going for the daemon mode. You have the option of going for the daemon mode. But in Fargate, it's always replica because it's a serverless. We don't have the EC2 machines at all with us. We don't have the EC2 machines with us at all. Us. Are you guys able to understand? Are you
Yes,
guys able
Ashok.
to understand? Now there is only one task is running. Now if I do the multiple tasks will be created. Multiple tasks means I want to run multiple tasks means five tasks will be created. Five tasks means based on the vote, five in the service, five tasks will be running on it. Five tasks will be running on it. If I delete one also, it will be taking care. It will be creating. Just do one. Just I will take two only, because how much you take, that much money will be charged for you by the AWS. So let it be load balancer type. Let it be like that only. Now create that service. Okay, sorry, service name vote. See guys, the vote is there. Now the vote is there. If you see here, it will be having everything whatever we are. See the task which are we want to create, it is in still pending state. Now if we go to the logs, still in progress. If you go to demo NDR tasks, yes, here two more new tasks has been created. Two more new tasks which are in still pending, which are in still pending state, This is the one manually we have created. But here, if you see two different tasks are being created because in the service we wanted two tasks. It is still in deployment, still in progress. It is still not it been, it is still in progress. Let's wait for it to come up. If you delete this task, there is nothing. If you delete this task, you can stop this one. Now the task has been stopped. Now still disaster running. Come on. See, here is the auto scaling. Desired task to be 2. Desired task to be 2. Now let's wait whether to come up, to come up, to come up, to come up. Come on.
So how does this come up, Ashok? Like we are using container here by using public IPv4 address. We are hitting that.
Sorry.
Previously, we used to launch the server and we used to hit the like IP address.
Yes.
Now we are directly hitting on to the container. Like what is a background process, Ashok? How does this hitting exactly to that port?
Because this is, they don't have any servers, right? They don't have any servers. They don't have any servers. They are directly taking on the container, because that the aws is taking care of this. The aws is taking care of everything. They are actually running, they are actually making sure, okay, the tasks should be in a running state. They are handling, they are holding this instances, they are holding this container on their servers, means which we don't see at all, which we don't see. So automatically they are giving us the public IP, because they are actually working on it. They are actually working on it. We are just using, we are directly hitting the public IP of the container, so that it works out, still it is still in progress. Come on. Here we will, before that we used to create tasks. How much time it used to take, how much time. What happened? How much time? Suppose when we have started creating the EC2 machines with the Docker swarm, how much time this is used to take? How much time this we used to take? How much time
Like
to
we need to
create?
install all the thing and we need to hit that port.
How much time this used to take, whether to create a EC2 machine and three EC2 machines, and in all the three EC2 machines Docker installation and run to the Docker, how much time it used to take for us? Minimum 10 to 15 minutes.
Yes, Ashok.
Yes, after installing the Docker, yes.
Everything it used to done by us manually. Now what we have done here, we have just created a cluster, and the service and task, how much time it took for us from
Hardly
our
5 minutes.
side? Not more than a minute, not more than a minute. It's just a second. We just provided the details and we are done. Now the AWS is going on in the back end. They are doing it. They are actually doing the EC2, and why did this got failed? They are actually working it. They are actually looking. Okay, I think the CPU issue will be there. 3 GB, 3 GB, 8 GB. So that may be the problem. Let me go to the vote. Oh, this maximum first. Okay. I will do guess. Just a minute, guys. It's taking a little time. Let me do other thing. Okay, the server is deleted. The service is deleted. Now let me do it. In the meanwhile, let me do one more thing. Are you guys able to? Hello?
Ashok?
Are you guys able to hear me?
No, now we can hear Ashok.
I think the network has been going on, coming on. That was the reason it was having this issue. Okay. I'll be just using Redis. Name will be Redis. The image ID, let's take it from Redis Alpine 5.3.10. Here, the port mappings will be for Redis. We need 6379 port. Will be UDP. Let's take a less memory.
Ashok, we will be selecting this CPU and memory. We won't be
Yes.
using this 2 GB memory, right, Ashok? Like we will hardly will run for a few seconds, like present instances.
Yeah, because we will be charging low like this 8 like that, but we just want to have a practice purpose. I'm just using less amount because this is chargeable, right?
Yes, Ashok. Like what is the maximum in the industry they would be using, Ashok? Like data?
See, this for one container, you will be just using 8 GB. That's more enough. So first you have to create the task. So as I said, starting phase, you have to define the task, whatever you want to create. We have to mention all the tasks. We have to mention all the tasks. After that, we have to go to the cluster. We have to go to our cluster, where in this cluster, we have to create our services. We have to create our services. When you click on create service, launch type, target, platform. If you take oat first, service name would be oat. Replica number of tasks would be 2. The networking. Let me go to the networking. Create a new security group. Security group name NDR demo. What exactly you need? You need the port to be HTTP protocol TCP/8 source anywhere, and another one you need. Where is the all? Just a minute, guys. What exactly is in the security group of Docker SGC? Okay, now let's go to the now create another service which is Redis. Service name also Redis. We can keep one, that's fine. Use the Docker-related. Come on, be fast. Now, if you see, both the tasks has been created. Now, if you go to the task, what exactly? See, the both task has been running. Now, if you click on this, and if you hit the IP, if you hit the public IP, means the service public IP. Where all the now India services. If you go to the OAuth, one is pending. Okay, this one replica Redis is pending. While okay, if you see in the tasks now, there are two tasks running, right? Now, if I stop one, just look at the tasks. If I am stopping one, now the two tasks are running. One is Redis and one is out. Now see, the other one is getting created automatically. I'm not doing anything. I have not created because I have asked my task should be two. My running task should be two. So automatically it will be taking once every, if one container has been stopped, one container means one task has been stopped, the container task has been stopped, it automatically creates, it automatically makes sure the other one gets created. This is all about AWS Fargate. There is a little bit more also we have to discuss how exactly we will be launching, how exactly we will be hitting this cluster, how exactly we will be hitting this UI. Means once we start, the three are running. Okay, two tasks. Where is the IP? Up to now, you guys are able to understand, right? Or you
Yes,
guys have any doubts?
yes, Ashok.
Are you guys able to understand what exactly we have done?
Yes,
Like
Ashok.
we are just giving the inputs here. Like entire background like work is done by AWS.
Yes, our work was just to provide the input. That's it. Because here we are just creating the tasks. Our work is just to create the tasks. That's it. Services. That's it. And they will be taking it. The back end, the infra, and everything will be taken care. Will be taken care by AWS. We will be not using anything. Let me.
How does this charge? How does they will charge Ashok for Fargate?
As I mentioned, it depends on what
Usage.
Like
exactly you are
it is
providing.
per minute or per hour, Ashok.
The way your usage target mode means the EC2, as I mentioned, it's up to on the CPU. That pricing charge we have to make sure means how much we are charging. It means if we are using 0.25 CPU, how much we are actually working on it, how much we are actually looking into it. Wait a minute. Yeah, and this should not work, but okay. See here, actually the infrastructure, the capacity providers, it will be actually Here we are not able to see anything. We are not able to see because here obviously we are actually taking the Fargate, because here we actually get how many machines are running. The Fargate may be using one machine per one EC2 per one machine. We don't know. We don't know anything, but they are using AWS VPC network where we are directly hitting the container IP. We are directly hitting the container, not the EC2, because in Fargate we don't have the containers. We don't have the containers. We don't have the, sorry, we don't have the EC2 machines. We don't have the EC2 machines. We are directly hitting the containers. That's the reason we are having AWS VPC. Okay, let me go to the, see the task definition. As I mentioned, Docker image, CPU, we have done it, right? We have discussed just now. We have did the task definition and we have run the task. We have run the task. We have run and the network modes. As I mentioned, AWS VPC, bridge, host, none. As I mentioned, we know AWS is all about its own elastic interface, private, primary. This is the directly property of the container, directly hitting the container. If you see, here is the host, because the container is having its own Ethernet, the own internet means we are having the slash process and the container is directly hosting the network. This is the network mode. This is the AWS VPC and the bridge and everything, you know it already. This is the one. As I mentioned, you are having your own EC2. Your own means you don't know what exactly serverless. You are directly hitting the container IP address. The container IP address. This is all about the networking part. Bridge and host, you already know this, so I'm not going to explain again. Task definition volume. This is about the bind moments and document I will discuss tomorrow. I just want to make sure one thing before we go. You guys do one thing. I'm just gonna give you this one. Create a ECS service. Create a ECS service and launch all the tasks. Means create the task and uh, after the creating the run the services. Run the services means create a service again according to that. In the service, provide all the task means whatever we have done, all the task details there, and it should be running. It should be running. You should be, if you are creating 5 tasks, because here we will be having vote for one task, ready is one task, worker is one task, DB is one task, and result is one task. So we will be creating 5 tasks, and for the 5 tasks, you will be having 5 services. So like as we have created vote, you have to go to the vote service and you have to provide the task details to there, and you will be creating 5 services. So all the 5 services should be running. You can give how many desired number of tasks you want to run, whether 2 or 3. So it's up to you, and all the 5 should be running. And tomorrow we will be launching that service. We will be launching that service directly, the vote, hitting the vote URL. We directly working on hitting the cluster IP or maybe the service IP, the service address IP. That will work out. That will work out directly the cats and dogs voting application. Create this one. It's just a homework for you. Create this one and I will upload the PPT. I will upload the PPT today itself. Just try this, and once you are done, delete automatically. Delete the task and the cluster, because this is chargeable. I'm saying it again. Once you are done, delete it. Once you are done, delete it. Don't keep that, okay, I will delete after some word. No, delete it, because we have to have the load balance and everything. I will explain it tomorrow, but try this. Try this and tell me what exactly you are able to understand. We'll be taking it tomorrow, and tomorrow I will complete the Fargate total fully. How exactly? Then I will go to the EC2 launch mode. Any questions you have, let me know.
Oh, sure.
We'll try it, Ashok. Definitely.
Right, because this way you will be able to understand what are the technicalities you will take in, because 3 months back they actually changed everything. See, before services we have to delete the services. It's throwing me an error because and the task I have already running. So we have to change the services. Then I have to update it. It's
Ashok, how many hours is ECS is permittable for us 1 year, Ashok?
That I'm not sure. Means we maximum. I'm thinking that maybe if you use more, then we will be doomed. So better. Don't.
Initially, while starting phase, I would I'll be consuming more time, 3
Yeah,
to
that's
4 hours.
fine. See this. They are giving 700 hours, but once they are done, they will be, as I mentioned, if you don't pay the bill also, that's fine. They will be mentioning it. For the first 6 months, they will be giving free. Once, if you are not able to pay, they will stop your account. We have option now again to create a new account, right? So for time being, we can see. Now see, I'm not able to delete the service. Why? Because the task, where the minimum task were 2, so it's not allowing me to delete. Now I have been delete this. I have been modified. I have modified the minimum number of tasks to 0. Then I'm stopping, and then I'm deleting the task. So this is the way you have to understand. Too practically will be. Hello.
Ashok?
Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes,
Now,
now Ashok.
I think my laptop needs to be restarted. I think I need to do it today. So that's fine. Please go through it and try to delete. Means once you're done, delete all everything. Delete everything. I'm saying it again and again. Delete everything. Delete everything, because if you don't delete, it's your money loss.
Yes, Ashok.
yes, Ashok, sure.
Okay, guys. See you tomorrow at same 8:30, and we will complete the Fargate, and after that we will go through the other things. Okay.
Yes, Ashok.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.